Hi, River City Church. I am so glad to be able to greet you today. I hope Christmas was fabulous for you and your family. I want to say thank you to many of you who sent us a card or a gift, a reminder of your love. I just want to say you made our Christmas even brighter, and I want to wish you a happy New Year as you come into the new year. Today, I also want to just remind you of a couple of things that are coming. In January, we will have our 21 days of prayer and fasting as we do each year at River City Church. I want to encourage you to figure out now how you're going to get involved in listening to God in a systematic and disciplined way from January 5th until January 25th. Second, we're going to be beginning a new series next week, a series of messages called 2020 Transformation. And transformation is a word that I feel like the Holy Spirit's given me for our church in this coming year. God wants for all of us to grow. He wants to bring transformation to our lives through His love. And additionally, He wants to bring transformation to River City Church. And I don't know what all that involves or what all that means, but I think that God wants us to open His heart to the fact that He wants to take us further in our relationship with Him, in our lives with Him. Now, right now, we're going to be welcoming Tony Schabel to the stage to share today's message. Just a few months ago, he came to me and requested that he could speak to our church a message that he felt God had put on his heart for the churches of our community. And as I listened to him and knew what a fabulous preacher he is, I really felt like he's supposed to come and share this message with us. Tony is a business owner. He's a former pastor in our community. And he's someone now who works with Trinity Life Mission, which is a ministry we partnered with for a long time that works with men who are trying to get free of substance abuse. And I just want to encourage you right now to help me welcome to the stage of River City Church, Tony Schabel.
Thank you, Robbie. Well, good morning. And blessed to be here, honored to be here, and blessed to be a part of that worship. Was that awesome or what? Like Robbie said, my name is Tony Schabel. That doesn't really matter much. What matters is who he is, amen? And I am one of the directors at Trinity Life Ministry, which is kind of like a domestic missionary piece to the church, which deals with specifically men that are trapped in the addiction of drugs and alcohol. And so what we do, a little bit about what we do, we are a residential transformation, love that word Robbie used, transformation, Christ-centered program that operates out of Montgomery County. We get them out of Lafayette typically, but actually they come from all over the country. And it's a 12-month program, and we're seeing the fruit of the Spirit work in some of these men and watching them come in, weighing 100 and nothing pounds and leaving filled with the Holy Spirit and filled with some food too. So we have about 500 phone calls and emails a month from desperate wives, desperate moms, desperate grandparents. Hey, my son is dying. They're going to die. They need help. Can you help? And we have a place that can house about 50 men. Okay? And through the cycle of 4 graduations every year, because it's a 12-month, 4-phase program, we can fit about 200 guys a year. So do the math at 500 a month that are needing help. And we understand that there's just one source of power that can help them break the cycle of addiction, and that's who? Jesus Christ, amen? And so we realize that nothing else will do, nothing else can do, and so that is our goal, to minister the gospel to these men and to set them free. And here's the financial part of it. It costs about $12,000 a man to put them through the program for a year, with all the essentials that they need in terms of housing, clothing, food, curriculum, transportation, and all that. So we do not charge the person that's coming in, and I'll tell you a little bit about why we don't charge them a little later on in the message. But I want to give you a little bit of information about addiction, and then kind of exhort you. Well, what can I do? What can I do? I'll share that with you. But before we do that, one other avenue I want to share with you that we have and that we operate is 2 thrift stores. So if you've not heard of Trinity Thrift Stores, it's now called Lost Then Found, and we have one in Lafayette, one in Crawfordsville. So now that Christmas is over and the New Year's come in, it's time to get out with the old and in with the new. So that stuff that's in the basement and in the garage and in your closet can all be brought, bagged up, and taken to the thrift stores, Trinity Thrift Stores, and we sell that. And every single cent that comes from that goes to support these men in the program, okay? So you know where your money's going and where your donations are going. And we also have a family ministry that we started last year that ministers the gospel to the families of these men trapped in addiction, and that's been going amazing. You wouldn't believe that where these people come from, great homes, Christian homes, some of them, and just made some bad decisions, and here they are, and the families are kind of ripped apart, and I know a bit about that myself, and so that's a little bit about Trinity. The message today, I think in your bulletin, it says Finding Freedom, and that's what the message is about, but more specifically, how much is a life worth? That's a question I kind of want you guys to ask yourself. How much is a life worth to you? If your child was trapped in addiction, if your child was endangered, what would you spend to get that person set free or healed or better and or out of danger? What would you spend? Well, moms, dads, you will spend about $250,000 plus or minus to get your child to adulthood, 17, 18 years old. So kids, thank your parents now, $250,000 they've invested in you. And but what would you spend if they were in danger? Well, listen to this, just so you understand how the world operates. Pablo Picasso painted some picture that I don't know what it's called, but recently it sold for $106.5 million. A little canvas painting about this big, probably $8 in canvas and paintbrush and oils or whatever. $106 million, so I can set that on my wall and appreciate that. Let me just say this about that. There is a desperate need for the Church of Jesus Christ to stand up and put its resources where they need to go. This is epidemic. Drug abuse, overdose is epidemic. You've never seen anything like it. I've never seen anything like it. And for some of you older people, it's your grandkids, isn't it? And I talked to several people after the first service. Yeah, my grandson, my granddaughter. And because that's the culture, that's where they are today. That's what's going on out there today. That's how people are coping. And 200 people will die today from a drug overdose. 200 people. You might end up knowing them, you might not ever hear about them, you might read about them. That's, by the time I'm done with this message, I went a little over in the first service, but I'll try not to do that this service. By the time I'm done speaking, 8 people would have lost their life to addiction. Unnecessarily. Didn't have to be. And so I want to give you a statistic that kind of blows my mind, and that's that the new leading cause of death for people under 50 is drug overdose. The leading cause of death. More people are going to die from drug overdoses under the age of 50 than anything else. And never was the case, but is now. And Some of you might be here this morning and you're listening to me, and some of you might think, and some people have said to me, well, it was just their time. You know, it was just their time to go. You ever heard anybody say that? It was just their time. And God has numbered their days. He's ordained them. And though I agree with that, I do not believe that God has ordained the death of teenagers or people under drug overdose, and they were born. God knew that day, and He predestined or predetermined or ordained that day that they would die. No more than I believe that the millions of kids that are aborted in a mother's womb were ordained to die that day either, right? Okay, so it doesn't set well with me. It doesn't stand up to God's word, because in Ecclesiastes, Solomon said in 7:17, don't be overly wicked, nor be foolish. Why should you die before your time? Now, that tells me that, okay, God's ordained my days, but I can cut them short. Don't die before your time. And so maybe there's some people that that have been affected by this epidemic of drugs, mainly opioids. And maybe you know some people that have stumbled and been trapped in alcoholism for a long time. Maybe you have some loved ones that are there, and maybe you're there. Okay? This does not exempt the church. Okay? And so in a crowd this size, I would not believe that there aren't some here this morning that have been trapped, maybe secretly, maybe for a while. So let's just understand what addiction is. Let's just have the sort of, if you're going to teach me about addiction today, I kind of need to know what that means exactly, because I think we've got a general idea what that means, but maybe not all of it. The word addiction comes from the Greek word addicto, which means being devoted or devoted to something or someone. That's what it means. You won't find it in the New King James addiction. It has a different word or meaning for addiction, and it's idolatry. Putting something above God, putting something in between you and God, making something more important, or elevating something to a point where you're devoted to that and you have to worship that, and now I don't have any choice. That's addiction. And addiction is not a disease. Let's be clear. The world's got all these classifications and all these new names. It's a disorder now. It's an opioid a use disorder. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's idolatry. Yes, you made a decision. Yes, you did the drugs. Yes, they enslaved you. And yes, it causes problems physically and neurologically. I get that. But you weren't walking down the street. No, I caught addiction. Okay? You weren't born with the predisposition to use drugs. You may have came from a family that did, and they encouraged you, or you saw that, or you were in that culture, and therefore you did, but that isn't in your genes, okay? Don't let anybody ever tell you that, oh yeah, well, it's a disease, I caught it, and now matter of fact, there's a thing out that my daughter brought home from a place in Indianapolis that says that drug addiction is a disease for which there is no cure. So we have to treat you and manage your disease. Like diabetes or something. False. Don't believe it. Proverbs 5:22 says, his own iniquities entrap the man, and he is caught in the cords of his own sin. That's addiction. Okay, I made some choices. I went down the wrong road. I wish I wouldn't have, but I got here, and now I want out. I need out. I'm going to die here. The problem for those in addiction, and this might sound counterproductive or a little, what do you say? What do you say? The problem for the drug addict isn't drugs or alcohol. It's what they use to cope with the problem, okay? And for most of the people that I've seen in addiction, okay, they're trying to cope with a life apart from serving the Creator by which they were created for, right? Jesus Christ. They're trying to live apart from him, and being out of that reality, they're insane. There's no reality of God in their life. And so they have to cope. And what are we going to use to cope? And drugs and alcohol are two very bad ones. Some of us use food. Some of us use entertainment. Some of us use sex or whatever. But they chose something that is not a slow fade. It's a quick one. You won't see very many heroin or meth people growing old with that addiction. They either get off or they die. And that's just the reality. So, Paul said in Romans 1:16, I'm not ashamed of the gospel. It's the power of God. It is the power of God that brings salvation, freedom for all who believe. Amen? That's the gospel. And Paul's clear on that. I'm not ashamed of that, man. That's the only thing we can administer to get you set free. Okay, the world has a different diagnosis and a different prescription. Okay, and you get it at a pharmacy. 1 Corinthians 1:18, for the message of the cross is foolishness to those that are perishing, but for us who are being saved, it is the power of God. It's the power of God. That's the source. That's what sets them free. That's what they need. Okay? And you say, but what about Christians that are addicted? Yeah, I understand, Tony. You said that they use drugs and alcohol because they're living a life apart from Jesus. But what about the ones that love Jesus that are addicted? Because Christians aren't exempt from this problem. Amen? Okay? And to that I would say, well, we're just going to tell the truth in church today, right? I would say this: are Christians devoted to stuff? Are you devoted to stuff? How many people like coffee? Show of hands. I like coffee. How many people got to have coffee? Right? See? A lot of devoted people here this morning, right? Not going to miss too many people. But I say that in jest because it's kind of funny, but in reality, it's the same thing. Love you, but it's the same thing. No, it's not putting a needle in your arm. No, it's not going to kill you. But when you're serving something that you have to have, it's not great. Here's the thing. The sin of idolatry is not new to us, to Christians, but it's becoming more and more acceptable in the church. My stuff, my shows, my power, my prestige, my position, a lot of things that seemingly are innocent and not a big deal, but they can be a big deal. It's not wrong to have food. It's just wrong when food has you, right? And where we live, you know this. I mean, how many people got cell phone? How many people got Facebook? How many people look at their cell phone 6,000 times a day? How many people can't stay off of Facebook? I mean, it's an addictive society that you're in right now. And some of you older folks are like, what is that all about? And we're like, what? I don't see it. I don't see it. Do you know that in 2016, the world watched over 4.5 billion hours of pornography? The world watched over 4.5 billion hours of pornography. That's 500,000 years of pornography in 1 year. Addicted. It's not getting better, loved ones. This is not a message about doom and gloom. This is a message about truth, amen? It's truth that sets us free, right? And so the church or the world that we live in right now is actually not getting better. I think the Bible kind of forecasts that in these last days, these things are going to happen, and it's not super great. It's time for the church to stand up, right? And shine the light. But here's the thing. With drugs, that's not getting brighter, it's getting darker. They're coming out with more and more drugs. They're easier to find. They're cheaper to get. They're way more potent. There's a drug out now, a cancer drug, that's like 1,000 times more potent than morphine. Do we need that? I mean, it's 10 times more potent than elephant tranquilizer, for crying out loud. Who wants that? And what's that for? And here's the stigma. The stigma is that those that are in addiction are kind of the lower class, from the wrong side of town. grew up with parents that way, and now they're that way, and their kids are going to be that way, and it's just and that's just the way it is, and that's what they want. They like that. They want to do. They want to party. And but check this out. A large percentage have this to say. I was raised in a solid Christian home. My parents did everything right. I attended Sunday school, youth group, and everything else, but I just made some terrible choices. Made some bad choices. See, that's a Christian home. See, I got 4 daughters. They're raised in a Christian home. Every one of them made commitments to Jesus. But my youngest, at age 11, serving the Lord, serving in Sunday school, always a teacher's aide, man. Couldn't wait to get back to the nursery and help the babies. At 11 years old, she got diagnosed with diabetes. 11 years old, tough age, right? Right there before kind of, you're not, I don't know if boys have cooties yet, or are they cool yet? I don't know yet, but that right at that age. And so tough age to have to deal with that and have to learn how to put a needle in your body every 3 days a week or 3 times a day. And now you can't eat what you want, and you can't stay overnight because you got to have your sugar monitored and all this, and just really, really strapped. And a year later, she liked this boy and left our home at 2 a.m. to go see him, and was taken advantage of by him while 3 other boys watched. And here's the thing. She had the disease, diabetes, that she didn't catch, didn't want, didn't choose, didn't make decisions for, and we thought she was sick. Every morning, man, just couldn't get out of bed, couldn't go to school, so we took her out of school, and we homeschooled her, or attempted to homeschool her, and just sick every day, just never right, always sick. And come to find out, when she was 18, she told us this story about what had happened. We didn't know because she had been drinking herself to sleep every night. She had somebody bring her alcohol. They'd put it in the bushes. They'd put it somewhere, and she'd go out and get it and drink herself. That's how she coped. That's how it starts. Could start with an injury. I had back surgery, so I had to take something, and then it happened. So the stigma is not quite the way you might think it is anymore. Pastors' kids, businessmen's kids, good, hardworking families trying to make ends meet, well-to-do people, and otherwise. And so, for all of you wondering, if you're wondering right this morning, why can't they just stop? Right? I mean, don't you just have enough muscle to just cut it out? I mean, look at what you're giving up. For those never trapped in addiction, this is really hard to understand. Why would a father drink his paycheck away? Leave his family that he claims to love broke and destitute. No money for food. Why would a child in a loving home steal from his parents to buy drugs? How could a person shoot heroin or meth until they look like a living corpse, knowing they're killing themselves, knowing? See, these people that are trapped, and I'm not going to get into the neuroscientific stuff of it, that's for somebody else. I'm coming from the biblical side, which the neurochemical and brain and all that, how it works together. God made it all, right? But it rewires the brain. Drugs and alcohol rewire the brain, the self-preservation, the survival mode, and they take that, and your brain tells you have to have this to survive, and then they'll do anything. They'll do anything to get it. They'll risk their life, their health, their kids. It happens every day. Every day. I don't know how many million kids are with grandma and grandpa this morning because of it. And someone said this: when I was addicted to drugs, I never felt worse. I never felt worse in my life. There wasn't any pleasure in it. See, it's like sin. It's pleasurable for a season. It promises in the moment. Okay, that's the idolatry. I'll worship this because it's giving to me, but then it turns and demands from you. Okay, it's good for a minute for you, makes you feel good, then it makes you sick, And you have to have it to just stay not sick. But the moral part, this person said, of myself hates the stealing and the lying. And the farther out of my value system I get, the more I hate myself and the more I want to get high to bury the hate, which leads to more drugs and hating myself even more. Do you see the cycle? It's just a death cycle. And see, we could judge them real easy. Just stop. You're killing yourself. You're killing us. And did you know there's an estimated 23 million people in America addicted to drugs and alcohol alone? Hey, you know how many people find help for that out of those 23 million? Less than 10%. So 2.3 people getting some help somewhere, the other 20 million is still walking around. No hope. So, that's the information part, okay? You got that? Tuck that away. So what do? What can we do? We're not going to ask you to turn to your Bible because I got to land the plane on time, second service. And so in Galatians chapter 6, verse 1 says this, what can we do? Oh, brethren, if a man is overtaken in any sin or any trespass, if he's caught in any sin, you who are spiritual, church, you who are spiritual, restore such a one in a spirit of gentleness, all right? Spirit of gentleness, I think that's important. Considering yourself, lest you be tempted, and bear one another's burdens, and then you'll be fulfilling the law of Christ. So that text is overtaken in any sin, it says there. Overtaken, caught in any sin, overwhelmed, taken, caught up, befall. More literally, rather than overtaken, means to be taken over. That's what drugs do. That's what alcohol does. It takes a person over. They're not thinking the way you and I thinking. Their brain has been rewired. Okay, you and I, when we get hungry, we go eat. Okay, if we don't eat something soon enough, it kind of get really hungry until what happens after that? It starts hurting, and the pain comes until you really have to get something in the belly. I've heard it said that starvation is one of the most painful things. That's what a drug addict feels when they don't have the drug. It's like that. They feel like they're dying. And I want to use a parable in Luke 10 to illustrate so if you're up here, Tony, you're talking to us, and so what are you doing, and what are you asking us to do? Well, in this parable, I want you to think of this parable as an illustration of who Trinity is. We operate this facility that brings people in and ministers the gospel as their only means of hope. Okay, so you've heard this parable, probably most of you. It's the parable of the Good Samaritan. And in verse 30 of chapter 10, a certain man went down from Jerusalem to Jericho and fell among thieves who stripped him of his clothing, wounded him, and departed, leaving him half dead. Now by chance, a certain priest came down that road, and when he saw him, he passed by on the other side. Likewise, a Levite, when he arrived at the place, came and looked and passed by on the other side as well. So you got two people. These are the spiritual people, right? These are the leaders, the Levites and the priests. These are the people that are confessing God, and they see this guy, and he's beaten down, broken down. And I want you to think of that guy as the addict, okay? They're beaten down, they're broken, and they got nothing. They got no money. Everything's been taken from them. The enemy's robbed everything they have. They have no shame anymore. It's just like whatever. And that's this guy. And so some grace walks up, and the Levite and the priest, and they're like, "Oh, here's this guy," and they're like, "Oh, it's that guy. He's a Gentile. He's not one of us, or he's something." But I want you to think he's the addict. Okay, he pulls up in the car. The guy's laying there, and he looks. Whoa, hey, I've got to be at work. I don't have time. Matter of fact, that's too much of a investment. And I don't know what's going to happen if I get involved, and a lot of fear in the society, a lot of fear among Christians about people like that, and they're just people that Jesus ministered to, because he said it's not the healthy that need a doctor, it's the sick. So it says here in the text, but a certain Samaritan, as he journeyed, he came where he was, and he saw him, and he had compassion. Okay? Now, that should be the church. That should be the Christian. That should be the guy that sees the addict. He's over here. He's in big trouble. And I can't just walk off. I've got to do something. I've got to help this guy out. And so he had compassion, and he went and he bandaged him up. He helped the guy out. And he poured oil and wine on him, it says here, and he set him on his own animal. And today he put him in his own car, and he hauled him to a place where he could get help. And here it says that he brought him to an inn, and he took care of him. And he set him, or on the next day, when he departed, he took out some money, gave it to the innkeeper, and said to him, here, take care of the guy, and if he incurs any other debt, I'm paraphrasing, then when I come back around, I'll pay for that too. But the guy doesn't have any money. He's been robbed. He's got nothing. He's destitute. Take care of him. And see, I want you to picture Trinity as the inn. Okay, that's who we are. And don't get me wrong, I think the church is also the inn, but sometimes injuries can be dealt with pretty easily. Like, if I cut my finger a little bit and I run to the hospital because I need a stitch or two, I'm not going up into intensive care for that, right? But sometimes in a case of addiction like this, you can't just pick the guy up and take him back to your house and I think we'll figure something out. It's going to take more than that, okay? And you've got a life, but what can you do? Well, you can get the guy to the inn. You can get the guy to Trinity. You can get him to us. You can help financially to help support the guy, because trust me on this one, when these guys come to us, these 500 calls a day, their family's already disowned them, most of them. Okay? They've been burnt so much, we're done. And their siblings are done. And their job is gone. And their health is going. And their life is almost gone. That's where they are. They're not coming in here, hey, well, let me get out my insurance card. Here, let me pay ahead for however long it's not like that. That's why we don't charge these guys to come into the program. Okay? We wouldn't get them otherwise. And I just got to tell you, man, these are the lowest hanging fruit out there is. Man, these guys got nothing. There's nothing in the way. Not like the parable of the rich young ruler, like, hey, I got all this stuff and I want eternal life too. How do I get that? Well, go sell everything you got and give the money away and then come follow me. Next. So that's who these people are, and that's who we are. We're the inn, okay? And we want to take care of these guys, and we're prepared to take care of these guys when they come in. And so which of these, and this is Jesus telling, hey, the guys are saying, well, who's my neighbor? He's telling them, love your neighbor. Well, who's my neighbor? And he tells the parable, and then Jesus asks the question, so which of these three do you think was his neighbor to the man who fell among the thieves? And they're like, well, I guess it was the one who showed mercy on him, right? And Jesus said, right, now go and do likewise. In other words, do you see the parable? Do you see? That's what I want you to do. Okay? That's what Jesus is telling us. That's what he wants us to do. Go and do likewise. And so, if you're a Christian here this morning, and you're part of the family of God, you're God's church, because the church isn't this building, amen? You're the church, then it's our responsibility. I'm up here because it's my responsibility. I was never addicted to drugs. I raised 4 girls in a good home. I didn't know I was going to be talking about addiction. But it's like, wait, I have to. I'm compelled to. And it's our responsibility. It's not a suggestion anymore. Here's something you should know. It's not a government responsibility. It's not a government problem, okay? And they're spending a lot of money, but can I just say it this way? They're wasting a lot of money building programs and building facilities and housing them with doctors and filling them with pharmacies and treating their condition with more drugs. That's what they're doing. That's the answer. And we're coming up with more drugs to counteract the drugs that they're taking for that drug, to counteract the drug that they're taking for that drug. That's exactly what's happening. And it's not great. So it's not a government problem. It's not a medical problem. The medical field isn't trying to heal this thing. They don't have a clue. They're like, well, wait, the drugs that we gave you, that's what we're trying to battle. We gave you that for that, and now we need something else for that. Yeah. As confusing as I just sounded, that's as confusing as it is to the person that's trying to get help. It's a spiritual problem. It's a church issue. And we need to recognize it as a church issue. True or false? 5 of you think it's true? True or false, church? Okay. So Galatians 6 again, Galatians 6. If he's overtaken in a sin, you who are spiritual, go and restore such a one. Bear their burden and fulfill the law of Christ. So whose job is it? Whose job is it? It's ours. It's our job. We're the spiritual people. That's what he's saying. Hey, this person is in trouble. Go get the doctor. Go get the government. No. You go. You're the spiritual one. Getting to the end, whatever it takes. If you have to pay to take care of someone, where'd you get your money? And fulfill the law of Christ. What's the law of Christ? To love God, to love others more than yourself. Okay? And I come across, shared it in the first service, this Facebook post, and I think it sort of tells a story of an account in John that I'm about to share. But it tells a story. It says, this Facebook post that my wife showed me said exactly this. Living in sin, this is in quotations, living in sin, shacking up and telling lies and playing church, committing adultery, and you want God's blessings? That ain't going to happen. If you want God to bless you, you have to live His way and not yours. And it was like, right on, like it, and all these comments about, you tell it, you go, sister, you do it, and I thought about that, and I was kind of like on that bandwagon, like, that's right, man, you can't just live your own life the way you want and think God's going to bless you. And which leads me to asking you to park that Facebook post for a minute. We'll come back to it, and which takes me to John 8, and you all know this one probably. This is to me, this is everyone in John 8, the illustration of the woman caught in adultery. It says in verse 1, Jesus went to the Mount of Olives, and early in the morning he came again into the temple, and all the people came to him, and he sat down and he taught them. And the scribes and the Pharisees brought to him a woman caught in adultery, and when they had set her in his midst, they said to him, Teacher, this woman was caught in adultery in the very act. We didn't hear about it, but in the very act. And the law of Moses commanded us that we should stone such. But what do you say? There's so much in that that's not being said. Okay? On the surface, yeah, okay. She's caught. They're trying to trap Jesus, and he doesn't condemn her, and he uses it, and they all walk away. It's like, wow, that's awesome. Wow, Jesus, you're awesome. But in the story, in the account, I want you to think about the woman for just a minute. Who was she? I mean, who's the woman? And she's got to be a Jew. She's under the law of Moses, it says here, so she's not some Gentile that they didn't care about. She was actually the daughter of somebody that was probably living there in Jerusalem, and they didn't care. Where was the guy? Because under the law, they should both be stoned. Where's the guy? It says they tested him, that they might have something to accuse him with. So if he speaks out against it, then he breaks the law of Moses. So what's he do? Jesus stooped down and he wrote on the ground with his finger as though he didn't even hear him. Because, see, here's what Jesus does. There's a lot of rhetoric, a lot of things happening, talk. Jesus, gets straight to the point. He's like, I'm not addressing your stuff, what you want to know. He just act like he didn't hear, so they continued badgering him, like, Jesus, did you hear us? Hey, we're talking to you. And, why so angry? Why? There's a woman here, half naked, crying, being judged, knowing that full well that she deserves death by the law, and you're all around here talking to Jesus, you're just laying there. And so Jesus raises himself up and he said this to them. He who is without sin among you, let him throw a stone at her first. In other words, any of you that are unlike her, you begin killing her. If you're not just like she is, go ahead. And what did they do? They left one by one. And again, he stooped down and he wrote on the ground. And those who heard it, what he just said, he among you who without sin cast the first stone, says that they all left one by one, beginning with the oldest even to the last. And Jesus was left alone with the woman standing in the midst. And when Jesus had raised himself up, he saw no one but the woman. And he said to her, "Woman, where are those accusers of yours? Has no one condemned you?" Wow, right? She had an appointment with the king. She had no idea that all of their planning and trying to trap Jesus was her day, her appointment to meet the king. And he says, she says, No one, Lord. And Jesus said to her, "Then neither do I condemn you. Now go and leave that life that you're living. Don't leave that. It says sin no more. Go and don't stop hurting yourself," right? When Jesus says stop sinning, he means stop hurting yourself, right? You know, I said so. That's not Jesus. But wait, the Facebook post, right? What about the Facebook post? Living in sin, shacking up, telling lies, playing church, committing adultery, and you want God's blessing? Ain't going to happen. You want God to bless you. You got to live His way, not your own. Now, what if Jesus would have said that to the woman? What if He would have said, "You mean to tell me, here you are in adultery, just playing church, coming to the synagogue whenever you want, doing whatever you want, lying to everybody. You want me to bless you? Forget it. It ain't going to happen. You want me to bless you? You better straighten up and start living the way I told you." Is that Jesus? Is that what He said to her? No. Because it's not what He says to you. But see, sometimes we look at the addict and we think of him like that. You better straighten up. You better get it right. You're on the edge of losing everything. Your family's going to disown you. Your wife is going to leave you. Your kids are done. Everybody's done. You're about to lose it all. Now sit up and take notice and get it straight. Because we do that. I've done that. To my own shame, I've done that. But it's God's loving kindness that leads us to repentance. Amen? It's His loving kindness. That's what we sing about, man. It's Jesus and the love that He has for us, that He would go to the cross. And so, in closing, and if maybe Adam would come up. In closing, I just want to speak to y'all personally a little bit, because there's some of you in here that are wrestling with this very thing that I'm sharing. And some of you parents, you've given up. Wives, husbands, you've given up. Siblings to those, you've given up. I'm done. I'm not doing it anymore. I'm done praying. I'm done giving. I'm done. I can't do this anymore. Emotionally, I'm out. And so I just got to ask this. How's that working? If they've ever needed you on your knees, they need you on your knees for them now. They can't do it on themselves. They can't do it by themselves. They can't do it on their own. They're a fish caught in the net. They can't get out. As much as you want to will them out, as much as you want to turn your back and have somebody else one day pick up the phone and get that crazy, awesome phone call or awful phone call that they've passed. Now it's over. I don't have to think about it anymore. I don't have to worry about it. You've stopped praying. You've given up. So I would go back to the initial question. How much is a life worth? What would you give for them to be set free? What would you give for those who've passed on to come back? Jesus gave His life for you. What would you give for them? And He didn't know you. There's a fella who gave me permission to tell you this. About 3 weeks ago, his parents called the office and, hey, I've got a son that's incarcerated and he's going to be getting out in a couple of weeks, and we got to get him somewhere. He's homeless and he's addicted to drugs and he's going to die. Can you help? And I'm like, well, we go through an interview process, and if you could get him to the office, and it's going to be a Saturday when he comes out, we're not there, but I'll go in and I'll wait. And he says, well, there's been a problem because we're trying to get a hold of him, but he's apparently relapsed while he was in jail, and we can't get a hold of him. They took his phone, and so he doesn't know that we're going to be there when he gets out. And I said, why don't you just go there and you just be there? I'll be at the office. Get him over. We'll talk with him, and maybe we can get him into the house. So I sat there and I waited that Saturday, and here comes the car pulling up, and out gets Mom and Dad. Out comes Hunter. They embrace. He walks up. He's got tears in his eyes and rolling down his cheeks, and he sits down. And he tells me the story that he said, I didn't know my mom and dad were going to be there. But I knew my drug dealer would be there. And when he left the building, there they were, Mom and Dad. And the drug dealer. He knew he'd have a place to stay if he went with the drug dealer, and he knew he'd have money in his pocket. He didn't know what would happen when he went to Mom and Dad. He didn't know why they were there. But he ran to him. And I'm sure something like, I'm not worthy to be called your son. And they embraced him and they brought him to the office. And he told me that he's going to die and he needs help. And so we took him to the program. And he's fallen in love with Jesus 3 weeks later. He's gained 20 pounds. He got a haircut. And he looks amazing. And I'm just telling you guys, you can't get them back when they're gone, but we can keep them from moving from this world to the next and not knowing where their eternity is. We can do something about that. Why don't you stand with me?